Welcome back, guys. Welcome to the Imperfect Walk.
where we have honest conversations about faith, marriage, and personal growth.
And today, our discussion that we're going to be having might step on a few toes, but hey, forgive us.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some unpopular truths about money and work, things that we wish we would have known 5 years ago, and things that people don't really want to hear, but they probably need to. And I know that we definitely needed to hear them.
One of the biggest things, controversy that we're going to be talking about is most people don't have an income problem.
They have a lifestyle and discipline problem.
Yeah, so we're actually going to break down what actually been keeping people stuck financially. And we're speaking from this perspective because we know what kept us stuck financially as
Yeah.
well. And I'm pretty sure it can portray to a lot of people as well.
Absolutely. I know that a lot of people are probably in the same shoes or were in the same shoes as us. How your habits, your work ethic, and your stewardship all play into the life that you're building.
Alrighty, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I think to start off, to just talk about the fact that we're not in the same place as we were before many years ago. For example, where maybe our parents were or our grandparents were, so on and so forth. Like we're in a completely different time frame right now than a lot of people, obviously. And so what used to work for so long and what has worked for maybe our parents or their parents doesn't work anymore. And there's a lot of shifts I feel like that have happened that are just like we want to get ahead of those things. We want to learn about those things. We want to educate about those things before it's too late, you know?
And one of the biggest thing is back then was the industrial age, but now we're in the information age. There's a lot of information out there, right? When they say the information age, everything is online. Everything is like in space, in the clouds, if that makes sense. If you understand what I mean by clouds, in the clouds. So it's like it's a lot of things might look easier, but actually more difficult in certain ways because now there's the blueprint is everywhere. So there's a lot of duplication happening, but how you duplicate will actually help you regardless and how you will become, like successful, grow, all kinds of different stuff, right? A lot of people are still accustomed to the industrial age where it's more hands-on, brick and mortar, stuff like that, right? Where it's like seeing is believing, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, a lot of people try to use the industrial age methods in the information age method. And one of the biggest things that actually we've learned from our mentors is that the whole world is content rich, but context poor. As I mentioned, there's a lot of information out there, but there's no context to go with it. So a lot of people can take that information and bend it in their own ways, create their own context, which is not the context it was made for. And now when it doesn't work for them, now they're like, oh, this content doesn't work. This content wasn't. And that's what's been holding a lot of people back, is because they're taking a lot of content without a context. So there's no growth. They're not gaining any money. So then guess what? People start thinking negative about that content. They're like, oh, that content didn't work. That whatever that information that I just got does not apply to me, does not apply to this and that because it didn't have the context to go with it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, one thing that I always love to learn, especially from my grandparents, because they're the oldest people that I kind of know. I know my grandma listens to this a lot, but I have asked so many questions to my grandpa. And so he came to Canada making like, I can't even remember the figure he told me, maybe like 15K a year, 20K a year. Like, I don't even know, but this is obviously a long time ago. But he was able to afford his own place. He was able to I swear it was like 10 or 12K a year that he was making at the time at like a very starter teacher salary. This was like, I don't even know when, like 1960s, 50s.
Damn.
I don't know. I have no idea. If he's 85 right now, okay, and he would have been at like 26 minus 65. Okay, let's say 1950s, 60s. So that's like when he was here in Canada. So him, my grandma, several years later, were able to buy a house. They bought their house for 100K. 100K. It's obviously fully paid off. Like, who knows how many years it's been fully paid off, right? But they were able to actually live in that, what's that, like middle life, like middle income? Was that middle class? Yeah, they were able to actually live in that middle class lifestyle, working both their jobs. My grandma was not a stay-at-home mom because like she did her thing. She was also a teacher. So yeah, but it's just very fascinating to me to hear like what it was like for them. I'm sure they weren't living paycheck to paycheck in the same way that a lot of people are now. Because what I find a lot of people are doing now, both people in the household are working. Maybe they have kids, maybe they don't. But a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck, mainly because expenses are so high, but also like other things as well.
I mean, and just from then till now, it's a lot of people mention like the cost of living, groceries, all that stuff has gone up. But honestly, the cost of surviving has gone up.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot survive on one income anymore in a household, especially in this day and age. You need multiple.
Mhm.
And sometimes even multiple is not enough, depending on how much that multiple is and actually how much you're actually stored in that finances. And we're going to talk a little bit more getting into those points in terms of a lot of people don't have an income problem. We're going to talk a lot about that as well. But at the same time, cost of surviving has gone up, right? How long do you want to just survive, right? We want to thrive. And, some of the things, with the world, how it's changed with housing, food, cost of living. But people are still trying to hold on to the outdated expectations, right? And they're waiting for life to feel easier instead of adjusting to the times that we're in right now. And, sometimes that may mean you got to go to two income. Maybe you need a side income. Maybe you need smarter money management. So those are a lot of different things that, people might start to adapt, especially if they want to win in this life. And then the people who complain, they just stay stuck at the end of the day.
Mhm. For sure. I 100% agree. Like I said, we're in a different point now where, okay, my grandparents were in that point where you could do that. Or you could survive off one income. You could not only survive, but you could thrive, right? You could have cars, you could have the nice house, you could go for vacations. Like it's just completely different. And now inflation has gone up so much, but yet income has not gone up to replace that. So what a lot of people aren't getting is that, okay, if inflation is up 5, 10%, whatever the figure is, I do not know, it feels like it's gone up 100%, right? Because if you used to pay $2 for bread and now you pay $5 for bread, that's over 100%. Those are the realities of like what's actually going on when you're buying groceries, you know? Rent is ridiculous. Car price is ridiculous. Everything is just astronomical, especially right now, gas gonna keep going up. There's a war. And so all these things are happening and it's like you have to adapt to these things.
They don't want people to fill up on gas to get the heck out of the country.
Yeah, they don't want people to leave the
But see,
country.
and a lot of things, people try to outwork the problem, not realizing, especially in this society, in this country right here. Almost every single country, most of the countries, the more you work, the more you get taxed, the more money you're gonna have to give the government.
Yeah,
So you try to outwork the problem, but at the same time, more of your income is getting eaten the more harder you work, which is crazy
yeah,
at the end of the day.
yeah. Income isn't really the problem. You know, yes, it can be a problem. Yes, it's not reflecting inflation, but if you can't figure it out at 50K, 50K will magically fix it. That's huge because I feel like for us, we didn't really realize that, you know, because there were circumstances where we were making more, there were circumstances we were making less, but somehow we were always just like paycheck to paycheck. We were always somehow the same amount of money that was coming in was the same amount of money that was coming out.
100%. One thing that even from reflecting on our lives and
Mhm.
things that happen is like people will always scale their lifestyle but not scale their discipline. So we're quick to improve all the different things in our life, improve our house, improve our cars, improve all the different things that we have. Whether it's like getting nicer clothes, get nicer shoes. Sometimes if you're going back to the last podcast we did, the comparison is because I want to be able to have all these things, just like keeping up with the Joneses,
Yeah.
but not realizing is that that's what causing a lot of these things. And that's why you have to have discipline around your own actions, around
Mhm.
your own life. Because people not going to understand again, as I mentioned, the hard work that you're putting into your own life. Right? At the end of the day, right? It's like, I created a budget. You created a budget. Having a budget is not putting a restriction on your spending, is giving you control over your spending.
Yeah.
Because if you have control of your finances, if you can take control over that finances, you'll be blessed with more. And as you mentioned, if you cannot manage 150K, you will not be able to get 150. So
Mhm.
that's why you need to take control of your finances, not let your finances take control of you.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things a lot of people do as well. And we are guilty of that as well.
Mhm.
We just we just made bigger problems with more at the end of the day.
For sure. I mean, we're not gurus. We wanna
Facts.
make it, like,
That's facts, yeah.
personal, right? But for us, like, we always thought, "Okay, more money is gonna fix the issue." But when we dove into our statements, we realized more money wasn't fixing the issue. We were making a lot more money, but the issue wasn't being fixed. And so being young, okay, 24, 32.
Huh? You just said 32?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding. 24 and how old are you? 27.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. 24 and 27. So like mid 20s. Most people are not thinking about their finances because we're not taught to think about our finances. I feel like we have just been forced in a position where we've had to think about our finances because we're living by ourselves. Like we don't have parents to pay the bills anymore or to buy groceries or to, pay for all the stuff that our kids need.
Just exactly what you just said right there too is like the more money you make, your habits won't change automatically because you start making more money,
Mhm.
right? You're just going to be making bigger mistakes with more amount of money at the end of the day, and because you haven't changed your habits, you haven't changed your discipline around those finances, right? And
Yeah.
that's why you're not going to be able to store it that well. And your lack of control just scales up the more you make, right? And then you're going to lose more.
Yeah.
So the higher you climb, the harder to fall at the end of the day. And you make some crazy wrecking ball decisions.
Yeah, and that's why people who win the lottery typically, like, I forget the statistic exactly, but people who win the lottery typically go broke right after. And a lot of NBA players go broke. Like, I saw a video, I remember I sent you one, I don't even know who the guy is,
I think it's Delonte West or something like that.
but there's a video of him homeless,
Yeah.
where a couple years ago, he was, like, top NBA, like, doing all these things, achieving all the milestones, making all the money, but somehow and you just think, like, how do you go from that from making so much money or getting so much money in the lottery to being broke? And it's literally those habits and the same habits that can transform your life too. Like, you don't have to be making 200K a year to get ahead and secure your finances. More money is not going to fix your life. It just exposes how you already manage your life. I think that's the biggest key. And also, your lifestyle is probably ahead of your income. For most people, I would say that their lifestyle is ahead of their income. So the more money that they start making, maybe they get a promotion, they go take a vacation, or they get a new car. Like, that's the biggest thing. People spend their money on liabilities, and understanding the difference between a liability and an asset. Rich Dad
Oh,
Poor
the
Dad.
rich.
That was like the first, I think, self-development book that I read, or the first one about money that I read. And it talked about how a house is a liability, a car is a liability. These things that are taking money out of your pocket are
This
a
business of the
huge
21st.
liability. Rich Dad Poor Dad is the original, the
Right.
OG. But yeah, and so because he talked about his dad, was rich and he was a doctor or whatever, a dentist or something. He had all the cars, he had the nice house, he had all this different stuff, but he was always broke. He was never ahead. He was always drowning. And so, yeah.
I can, man, I'm just thinking back and I'm like, every time I got like my commission check, I got a bonus check. The first I could think of like spending it.
Yeah, you wanna
It's
go
like,
spend it.
I wanna go buy this, I wanna go buy that. I'm like, okay, I need to upgrade my car soon. You know what? I need a new pair of basketball shoes. These ones are getting worn out. I need new soccer cleats. I need this. First initial thought, if I have extra, what can I buy? What can I spend this on? Like, you know what
Mhm,
I mean? Like, I need to buy something, need to get something, need to get something. We're always in a spending state of mind,
mhm.
right? And that's how we're wired, right? And and we need a rewiring. And that's why income is not the solution at the end of the day, is because how we're wired as humans. We do the total opposite when it comes to the income, right? It's all about spend, 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 spend. How much can I use?
Yeah, it's a mindset and it's a habit thing that's keeping you broke. It's not necessarily an income thing, 'cause that can go up and down, like, you can always make more money, but for me, like, I know that when you would get those bonuses and stuff, or even before when I would work and I would get a lot of bonuses. I remember the last year that I worked, I made a decent amount of money, but where did it all go? And so I just realized that I was just spending it all because the $60 here and the $100 there and the $30 food twice a week for the whole month, it adds up to several $100s, right? And that's what's keeping you behind, I feel
Exactly. It's
like.
it's that lifestyle. It's like when your lifestyle is ahead of your income, it's one of those things that it's quietly destroying you. It's you don't notice these things because a lot of times nobody really tracks it, right? Not everyone is that disciplined to track it on a multiple basis, but you definitely see it and you definitely feel it when time comes for those bills to come out and checks are bouncing, accounts bouncing, NSF fees are coming out of your account. That's when you start feeling it. Because if you're not actively reviewing these things, you're not knowing where it's going until the statements come on. You're like, whoa,
Mm,
okay, I need to fix that. And we can't keep doing that until it's too late. Because then when it gets too late, now you're gonna be putting yourself back into a hole. So you just gotta be able to create that discipline around your finances. You know, just have a little bit of time, even if it's not every month, maybe every 3 months. You know, track those things. Where does money going? And don't let your first instinct be spend. I'm talking to myself right now too, as well. It's like don't
mhm,
let your when you realize that you're gonna be net positive, don't let the first instinct to be where can I spend it? Because why would you want to be at a net balance? Why not be in a positive? So that way, if you ever some reason and another month being a loss, that positive reading from the previous month will carry over. So you're still in the positive or you're at that balance, which is not the best place to be, but it's better than being a negative. So it's like you never know when you're going to need it. And the more positives you can add up, the more you can create, the more you can start investing that money, and the more you can always have. And the one thing my mentors always mentioned, taught us to have a oops fund, right?
mhm,
Have some way you can have a oops account where in case things do fall apart, because it's just like how life is, you have something to piggyback off of. Those are some of the best advice I've ever gotten, right? You know, creating a budget sheet. I've never created a budget sheet in my life until I met my mentors.
mhm.
Never looked at a budget sheet, never created one ever in my life. I used to do
Most
accounting in
people
school.
don't. Most people don't have
Mm.
a budget sheet. Like, they have no idea where all their expenses are. They have maybe, like, a wide range, like, a overall thought process of it. I know that I used to have an overall thought process of, "Okay, like, this is where my money goes. I spend this much on here, and, yeah, I could probably afford, like, a new car and, like, rent." But only people who are very on top of their finances actually create a budget sheet where everything is laid out, like, literally everything that you would spend money on, groceries, all your bills, all your subscriptions, all of your expenditures, your rent, everything is laid out. And then I think it's also important that you go through your statements because your statements might say a different thing than your budget. And you have a budget sheet, yes, so you know where you're supposed to be, but your statements will actually reflect where you were, you know?
And you got to be honest on your budget sheet as well.
Yeah.
If you know you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars and eating out, put it. Because you want to be honest on your
Mhm.
budget sheet because your only person you're being dishonest to is yourself. And that's going to be put you in a bigger, deeper hole.
Mm.
Because now you're going to be confusing yourself on where the money is going when you really know where the money is going. And have an accountability partner at the end of the day as well, who's able to track this stuff as well, and kind of keep you accountable for that stuff as well. So, as your lifestyle grows faster and faster and faster, as your income grows faster and faster and faster, learn to always, I'm not saying you need to be broke and live broke, but live below your means. So that way, as the income grows and you have more investments, you can start living that lifestyle that you want to live
Mhm.
at the end of the day. It's just for a period of time. Right? The more your lifestyle is ahead of your income, you're going to always feel broke. No
Yeah.
matter what, no matter how much more money you make, no matter how much things you have
Mm.
in your life make you feel like you have it all together, the more money you make, you're gonna always still feel broke if your lifestyle is still ahead of your income.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I've heard of so many successful people who you live way below your means, like you live way below your means. A lot of people, unfortunately, and it's hard to do that this day and age too. But yeah,
Yeah, man, if your car is still drive it.
yeah.
I mean, if you don't have to move out right away, you don't need to move out unless there's lots of issues going on in the house. You just need to get out of there. Like, I know people who are,
I don't know. I have a different mindset on that because you being at home, you're going to be comfortable.
that's true,
And you say you're going to save, but you're not really going to save. Most people are not really going to save while living at home.
discipline.
Yes. But discipline, I don't know, like, yes, you do need discipline, but you need systems that will force you to just be disciplined. If that makes sense. Like, okay, if you're getting paid, right? Put a certain percentage or automate certain percentages of your paycheck into certain places, like tithing, for example. We have a certain percentage that we go into tithing. We have a certain percentage now that we're putting into investments. And it's not like that money isn't there because that money was spent on eating out.
Mhm.
The money is there. And when you look through your statements, you're able to see exactly where the money has been spending. And you can make the decision of, okay, yeah, I actually do have 5% that I can put into investments, or 5% that I can put into tithing, or 5% that I can put into savings, or whatever the percentage is that you feel is right for the different areas of your life. But most people have it, you know?
One of the greatest things that we've actually been doing that it's been super helpful is when we know how much money we're getting for that month or for the next paycheck, we break down where that money is gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we know we're not gonna if it's gonna be enough, if it's gonna be more left, and if it's more left, what we're gonna do with the rest of that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to savings? Is it going to investments? Where is it going? So that way we have control over that money, over that finances. We know where things are going. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the more we got to be able to be more consistent with doing that as well. It's just knowing, okay, we have this coming in, we got this coming out, we got this coming in, we got this coming out. And it's just staying on top of it.
A
It's
lot of the
rare.
time, there's stuff that comes up, though, that is not expected.
Hmm.
And so that's the benefit of having savings and the benefit of having that oops fund, because you never know when your car is going to break down, right?
Oh
So many
boy.
times that our cars have put us back financially. Why? Because they're liabilities. Cars are huge liabilities. And we made the mistake of getting a second vehicle. Like, for what? To spend thousands of dollars on and for it to just devalue the second that we drive it away.
As we spoke about at the same time, right, is that's us making that same decision where we wanted our lifestyle to be ahead of our income.
Yeah. We
Because
thought we needed them.
because we started making more money,
Hmm.
we decided to add a second vehicle, which now caused us to move backwards a little bit because of all the stuff. I mean, the vehicle was helpful, it was a bigger vehicle, but then we end up not being able to drive that vehicle for almost a year.
Yeah.
So we were just pretty much putting money into this vehicle that was not being driven because he was giving us issues.
Hmm.
And that's us. That's an example right there of us living ahead of our income.
Yeah, we've done it. Like, we have
Absolutely.
done all these things, and I'm just so glad that we are young and we're learning a lot of these things and walking them out. And so I just feel like if you're in your late teens or you're in your young 20s, maybe you're just having fun, maybe you're just doing your thing, you're getting your first job, you're coming out of university. There's a lot of these things that I think will be super important that we have been through and we've just failed at, that you can learn from and that you can like get ahead, because it's better to get ahead in your 20s and set yourself up for success, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what catastrophe or what situation in your life is going to come up, what family member might need assistance. You never know what can happen, and it's better to be prepared. It's better to be ahead than just be in chaos when you're struck with it.
Absolutely. And you touched on it briefly, but one of the biggest things when it comes to your finances is stewardship.
Yeah.
And, giving that 10% back to the one who owns it, to
Mhm.
Christ at the end of the day, right? And there's been many times when we're like, man, I don't know how we're going to give this 10%, because if we give this 10%, we have nothing left for our bills. We got nothing left. We didn't even have enough for all the bills. Yet we still gave it. And if somehow we figured it out, somehow, Christ always came through.
Yeah, it's crazy how many times we just randomly have money in our account or just something happens and all of a sudden we're just blessed with money from a place that we didn't even expect.
I'm still waiting on the winning lottery ticket to just pop up on my front door.
God has covered every single one of our bills. God can do more with your 90% than you can do with your 100%. The aspect of tithing is more of a heart posture and of a mindset and of a stewardship than it is an obligation, if that makes sense.
Mm.
People want to hold on to everything. People want to hold on to their entire paycheck. And I get it, because I've been there. I've been there where, you don't have enough for your bills. You don't want to put money anywhere. You don't want to give money to anyone or anything, right? But that act of obedience and that act of, okay, God, I trust you with this, you first, and he will reward you, right? There's never been a time where he has not covered one of our bills, that he has not come through, that he has not shown us again and again. If he feeds all the birds in the sky, there's some verse that if he feeds all the birds in the sky and he feeds all these animals, how much more precious are you? And do you not think he's going to take care of you, right? And he has shown us that again and again. And so that's why the stewardship matters the most, and it matters more than the amount. There is a story in the Bible where there is all these Pharisees and all these people giving all this money, and they were like being egotistical about it. And this woman came and she gave like barely dirt money. But Jesus stopped and he looked at his disciples and he said, that was a bigger gift than anything that anyone else has given, because it's more of her heart and it's more of what she actually has than anyone else is giving. And so it's that heart posture behind it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tithing isn't about losing money, it's about trust and alignment. What you trust God with multiplies. What you try to control often doesn't. And I've seen that happen so many times in our life. And I know now, like, if we don't have a money for bills, I'm just like, God will cover it. You know, I don't know how. I don't know where that's going to come from. I don't know how he's going to make that happen, but I know God's going to cover it for sure, because he just shown that over and over and again in our lives.
Absolutely. And everything you just mentioned is spot on, right? And as we continue to move forward here, is one of the biggest things that we used to always, I would say not be confused about, but we will always think we're doing one, but not the other. And that is being busy. We're always saying we're busy. We're always busy doing something, but we weren't always productive. And being busy doesn't mean that you're productive. Because a lot of times, a lot of people are busy reacting to the everything that's being thrown at them for that day, right? Because again, they didn't have any structure. They didn't have any discipline. So a lot of the time is the most of the day is spent reacting to things that you did not do or set yourself up for the day before, or things that you weren't expecting, right? And no, you're busy dealing with these things. Maybe it's putting out fires. Maybe it's handling different situations. Maybe it's doing certain things that it's not actually moving you forward, right? And there's a few podcasts that we've listened to, a few of our leaders have actually taught us about this, was the signal versus noise. The signal being the things that actually move your life forward, and the noise being the distractions that actually deter you from your productivity. On a day to day basis, am I focusing my mind on more signal or more noise? Am I actually being productive, or am I just busy? Right? What am I doing today
Mhm.
that's actually moving my life forward?
Mm.
What's actually distracting me from moving the ball forward? And a lot of the time, that's how you're going to differentiate is how much percent of my time is actually on signal, how much percent of my time is actually on noise. And a lot of people don't take an audit of their time. A time audit is one of the most important things you can do. I know we spoke about finances and doing financial audits and stuff like that, but your time audit is one of the biggest things that you need to do as well. And you gotta also separate the signal from the noise and outline those things for yourself. Am I actually busy? Am I productive?
Yeah.
Am I spending my time on more noise or more signal?
The signal versus noise thing is such a good one. Being busy doesn't mean you're productive, like you said, and it's costing you your future. I think that being busy could be anything. Maybe you're working. Maybe you're with your kids. It doesn't mean that it's bad things. It doesn't mean that it's things that you shouldn't be doing. But a lot of people fill their day, but they're not actually moving their life forward in the goals. And how much time did we spend doing that? I mean, we thought we were so busy that we couldn't do X, Y, and Z, but we were never being productive. And I think that's why we're not more ahead than we could be. We were never really being productive. Scrolling, planning, overthinking feels productive, but it isn't. It's just a lot of noise. Someone did an interview of Steve Jobs and they asked him, how have you been so successful? And he talked about signal versus noise. Signal being income producing, skill building work, whatever work gets you forward in the goals that you have or want, right? And noise being everything deterring you from that, to make it incredibly simple. And so I really spent a lot of time thinking about that because how much of our life is noise? You know, even spending time with my kids is noise. And that's not necessarily depending on what goals I'm focused on. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's not valuable or precious time because I'm in a specific season. But for anyone, whether it's at your workplace or whether it's building a business, how much of your time is signal versus noise? And what Steve Jobs said is that the incredibly successful people spend 90% of their time in signal and 10% of their time in noise. And one tip for that is you find the top 3 to 5 things that will move your life, your goal, whatever it is forward. And those are the things that you accomplish that day, no matter what. And then you do it the next day. And then you do it until your goal is accomplished. And the noise will prevent you from accomplishing those things. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's anything that prevents you from that. And that mindset shift can be so good in a workplace, right? If you're trying to get a promotion, if you're trying to make more money, maybe focus on creating more signal, focusing more on the most important things that are moving your day, your task, your goal forward, and focus less on all the noise. Alex Hormozy and his wife have also talked a lot about that, where it's like they've cut out a lot of their meetings. Like 90% of meetings don't even need to happen. They're just noise. Like a lot of things that are common in workplaces don't need to happen. They're literally just noise. And it's a lot of time wasted versus implementing systems that could be better, more productive, and could get you ahead faster. And in a time where one income isn't enough anymore, right? For most people, maybe you are making 250K on your one income. That's amazing. But you can get fired. Even if you're a CEO of a company, you can get fired. And so if you don't watch, like if you don't protect yourself against that and you don't set up things behind the doors, investments and habits, right? People who've built up multi-million-dollar companies and lost it all and built it up again, it's because they built habits of success.
just kind of tie all it all together right there. It's like if it's not making you money, if it's not moving you forward, if it's not, creating better habits for yourself, if it's not shaping your mind for you to actually elevate, then it's probably slowing you down
Mhm.
at the end of the day. And yeah, just
Yeah.
some final thoughts here as well is that a lot of these things that we've been taught, we've actually went through and we're like, you know what, these are some things that people need to know. And a lot of times it's like if we knew this ahead of time, we'd definitely be further ahead. And we want to see more people further ahead, not fall into the system
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right?
I
And
wish that someone had taught me all of this, 5 years ago or, like, 10 years ago when I was in high school, and maybe I would have looked at things differently or done things differently, and obviously you can't live on the what ifs. I'm not saying live on the what
mhm,
ifs, but okay, we're here now, great. So now I can teach my kids everything that I'm learning through my struggles, but also how can other people who are young, change things? And you don't even have to be young in your 20s. Like you can be 30, 40, 50s, whatever, and still be in a position where you can change your habits, change your mindset, change your spending. Like, why is it that when we get paid, we itch to spend it? Like, I think that everyone should spend time and figure out why for themselves. Because I know for me, like, okay, I have extra money. I'm now itching to go spend it. My brain's like, "Ooh, I could go to the thrift store. I could go here. I could go there. I want this. I want to buy this," you know? But more recently, I've gotten back into the mindset of, okay, what can I do for my long-term success? And when you do your budget and you go through your expenditures or whatever, how much of that can you allocate to your future? Even if it's just like $100 a week, $100 a month even. If you put away $100 a month into a stock market or high interest savings account or whatever you want to invest in, that, like, I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not giving any financial advice as a disclaimer, but if you do something like that, right? And it doesn't seem like anything. You're like, "Oh, $100, $200 a month, whatever." But 20, 30, 40 years down the line, when you're now in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, depending when you started, you're now going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, depending on how much you actually put in. And that's what you want. You don't want to wake up one day in your 50s and realize that you have no
assets.
retirement, or you have no assets, or you have nothing. And if you want to retire earlier, you absolutely can. You just have to have a plan and you have to execute it.
Yeah, but even we're talking more like I forgot the statistics around it, but it's just talking about the how much people actually retire with actual dignity. The actual average age of retirement has actually gone up now. There's so many different things there, and it's like right now, what we actually got to start thinking is start thinking long term. We got to start thinking in years, not days.
Hmm.
We got to start thinking in systems, not motivation. We got to start thinking in disciplines, not feelings, right? We just got to change our mindset. And absolutely, I know from speaking to other people, from seeing this our own self, everyone have little leaks in their buckets, which means that there's leaks in your finances that you just got to stop. You don't know them. You don't see that they're there. You don't know that they're there because you don't really pay attention to them. When you actually dive into it, you realize that's where that went. Because a lot of times, many times I've asked myself, where did that money go? That's a dangerous question to ask. That's a
Hmm.
dangerous thing to not know. Little things that are eating your money that you didn't even realize
Yeah, I mean, they
that could
kept
be stopped.
us
Yep.
broke for so long. But once you realize that, or once you realize that your
Hmm.
tire is leaking, you can go patch it up, and then you can start to get ahead. It's okay. Like, if you've been spending X amount of money on eating out, X amount of money on, like, right? We've had several months or years where we spent $300 to $400 eating out a month without realizing it
Absolutely.
because we're not looking at what we're doing, right?
Exactly.
How much more investments could we have if we had invested that? That's okay, whatever. We're here now. So it's like, okay, what do we do about it now? Well, now we're going to put certain percentage here, certain percentage there. We're going to check our statements. We're going to check our budget. We're going to make sure that we're not spending money on eating out. And yeah,
Difficult to do, difficult not to do.
with everything, you end up paying a greater price down the line when you don't deal with things
Yeah.
straight
And
away.
it's one of those things where you're just like, man, it just seems so much easy. It's just convenience,
Yeah,
right? I think the biggest thing right now is convenience. It's just so much more convenient to go eat out,
of course.
buy that food. It's so much more convenient than to go make food. What I mean? It just makes it just you just live off of convenience. Like I said,
Yeah.
we're in the information age now. Information age preaches convenience.
Yeah.
Like we use AI for a lot of different things now to take a lot of the load off, right? Convenience. It's all about convenience. It's all about how can I make my life easier
Mhm.
at the end of the day. One of the biggest things that a lot of they call them like older people who is more of the industrial age, one thing that they don't like about the information age and everyone who's growing up in this age is laziness. Nobody wants to work hard anymore. Nobody wants to put in real effort anymore into anything because they think things are gonna come easy because it's more easier to blow up in certain things. There's a lot of different platforms you can start doing things on, all this kind of fun stuff.
Well,
So
it seems easy. It
exactly.
seems easy, but
Exactly. Yeah.
the real convenience, I think, comes from things like Amazon, where you just press a button and, oh, here's my package.
Yeah.
Like, versus before, back in the day, you had to take your cash right out of your hand. That hurts a little bit more when you have, like, let's say, like, a couple $100 bills. You actually have to, like, hand it to someone. That hurts a lot more than just clicking a button and then, like, oh, it's on your Visa, your MasterCard, and oops, like, I'll pay that someday. And the next thing you know, you're in credit card debt and all this different stuff because it's just easy. And that's the flesh. The flesh will always fight the spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
The spirit wants to be disciplined. Your spirit wants to be ahead. Your spirit wants to live life to the fullest where God called you to be.
Yeah. The flesh is weak, but the
But the
spirit is
flesh
willing.
is so weak and they will always fight each other. Your flesh will always want what's more convenient. Your flesh will always want to sleep in, to eat the junk food, to spend the money, to, sleep with the person if you're in that phase of life, to take the alcohol, to take the drugs, whatever it is, your flesh is always going to want to do the thing that feels the most convenient in that moment. But your spirit will always call from the inside, be like, no, I want this. No, do this. Right. And so
Yeah.
it's just about listening to that.
That's why it's the Bible verse that says the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. I don't remember what the Bible verse is, but
Yeah.
yeah. And one of the biggest things somebody said, if you can't buy it twice, don't buy it at all.
Mm,
If you can't buy it twice and still be in a good spot, do not buy it at all. And just to kind of wrap everything up into a beautiful bow and just
mm-hmm.
tie it all together, is like, as you mentioned before, it's like it's not just about how much you make, it's about how you manage it, how you work it out, and how you on your lifestyle, how you live. And it's like do not let your lifestyle be more than your income at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
Ultimately, money doesn't fix those bad habits that we talked about. It just makes them bigger. It's just going to accentuate whatever is going on, right?
100%. And if you cannot manage a little, no matter how much more money you get, you won't be able to manage more because you focus more on how much you earn versus increasing your discipline and versus increasing your habits at the end of the day.
Yeah. So the goal isn't just chasing more money, it's becoming better. It's becoming more disciplined, more intentional, and more faithful with what you already have. Developing better systems, not just the discipline. We'll
We'll
see you
see you
next
next
time
time.
on the Imperfect Walk.
Stay groovy.
Bye.